Yes, Bhartaji, you are audible.
ॐ नारायणाय परिपूर्णगुणार्णवाय विश्वोदयस्थितिलयो नियतिप्रदाय ज्ञानप्रदाय विबुधासुरसौख्यदुःखसत्कारणाय वितताय नमो नमस्ते। आसीदुदारगुणवारिधिरप्रमेय नारायणः परतमः परमात्स एकः संशान्तसंविदखिलं जठरे निधाय लक्ष्मीभुजान्तरगतः स्वरतोऽपि चाग्रे तस्योदरस्थजगतः सदमन्द्रसान्द्र स्वानन्दतुष्टवपुषोऽपि रमारमस्य भूत्यै निजाश्रितजनस्य हि सृज्यसुष्टा वीक्षा बभूव परनामनिमेषकान्ते नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुश्चागीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः लक्ष्मीनारायणं नत्वा पूर्णबोधान् गुरूनपि कुर्मः श्रीकृष्णगीतायाः भाष्यादुक्तार्थसङ्ग्रहम्. Hari Om, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Pratipadartha session. We primarily run two initiatives under this Purushottama Yoga Club for the sake of understanding Bhagavad-Gita. One is the daily chanting, the guided chanting. We meet at 6 o'clock in the morning, and on a daily basis, we chant approximately 100 slokas, and that will help us complete the entire Bhagavad-Gita in a week. 700 slokas in 7 days. That's what we do. So far, today we completed another cycle. We perhaps completed the 17th, 18th, or 19th cycle. We have lost the count. The whole intention is to recite accurately. The more accurately we recite, we are able to locate the words. We are able to place the words that come in the shloka. And the more accurately we are then able to locate the words, we do realize that many of these words are quite known to us. They are all familiar to us. The words that are used in Bhagavad-Gita, the Samskrita words are quite common in all our mother tongues, all the Bharatiya Bhasha. That's perhaps the reason why Samskrita is called the mother of all our mother tongues. It's the mother of all Bharatiya Bhashas. It's a Samskrita Bharati. We can't be Bharatiyas without the Bharati being in us. Right? So we are very close to this language. Only thing is because of some reasons that we don't know why, but somehow we have kept ourselves distanced from this language, and we are more comfortable with English language. And to that extent, today we are dependent on English as a via medium to understand our own scriptures, which is a travesty. But nonetheless, I think we do realize when we chant accurately that we can perhaps understand Sanskrit. It's not that difficult. Only thing is we are not so familiar with the word structure. You know how the word structure, word construct is. To that extent, what we do along with the daily chanting is once a week we look at this session. We meet every Saturday 8 o'clock for about 90 minutes. Till about 9:30, we look at as many shlokas as possible to gain our understanding, the meaning of the Bhagavad-Gita shlokas. So far, we have covered 100 shlokas. In the previous session, last Saturday, we stopped at shloka number 53, 47 shlokas in the first chapter, and 53 shlokas of the second chapter. So far, we have covered exactly 100 shlokas of Bhagavad-Gita, not counting the 20 shlokas that we have seen of the Purushottama Yoga, because we're going to see Purushottama Yoga again as part of our understanding of Bhagavad-Gita. We looked at Purushottama Yoga as a different subject altogether. It is the inspiration for this club. And we also, the Purushottama Yoga, that chapter 15, is the quintessential summary of the entire Bhagavad-Gita. And we saw that, during those sessions when we looked at the Purushottama Yoga as a chapter, we saw how we can derive the entire meaning of Bhagavad-Gita through that one chapter. We will perhaps do another Upasamhara a little later. But nonetheless, so far we have seen 100 shlokas. These 100 shlokas can be broadly summarized as one half of it is expressing the plight of Arjuna. And that plight of Arjuna can be divided into three stages, the way it develops. Right? There was a lot of edgy moments from the Kaurava side. The Pandavas started very divinely. And then because of his attachment, he became deluded. He became completely morose, and he got into dejection. Right? He was completely in grief. That's the phase in which we saw the development. And the way Arjuna could express his grief again can be threefold. Initially, he spoke about his physical condition. Of course, his eyes were filled with the tears. His physical conditions also included the body completely being frozen, all the limbs were frozen, the skin was appearing to be burning, the mouth, the face was completely dried up, completely parched. The head is spinning. He couldn't stand up properly. There were some different conditions that he expressed, Arjuna. This is around the 27, 28, 29, 30, these shlokas of the chapter 1. And then from there, he moved on to expressing dharma, adharma because of this gory war. He speaks about dharma. Uh, and in that context of dharma, he talks about how adharma will come, how the entire clan will be vanished because of this war. And with the vanish of the clan, how all the practices will be lost, and how all of this will lead them to all being relegated to Naraka, permanently relegated to Naraka. And the third phase of his Vishada was primarily about him expressing to Krishna, I have lost it. Karpanya dosho upahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. He says very clearly, I have lost it. I don't know what is right, what is not. I don't know it is good for me to kill them or it is good for me to get killed by them. He also mentioned something very strange, right? In this moment of unreactive, non-reactive situation of mind, it would be good if somebody from the other side comes and kills me, right? I am not in the mood to retaliate right now, right? I don't have the weapon in my hand, and then I have no mood to retaliate. In this mood, let somebody come and kill me. That I consider to be great for me. And then he confesses towards shloka number 5, 6, 7, 8 of the second chapter. He expresses his grief. He expresses his condition very clearly, and then says, I have lost it, Krishna, help me understand. Now, Krishna's response that we saw so far, right, from shloka number 11 of the second chapter, again, one set of Bhagavad-Gita message was completely delivered through shloka number 2 and 3. I think we have spoken about that. From shloka number 11 is where the bigger chunk of the message came through, those 42 odd shlokas, shloka number 11 to 53, right, those 43 shlokas can again be categorized in three parts. One, the physical pain that Arjuna expressed, right? The eyes filled with tears and all the physical conditions. He completely cancels that. The first 20 shlokas from shloka number 11 is all dedicated to stop crying, get back to your consciousness, get back to your senses, and get up and fight. Right? This is how we can understand that, right? So all the physical condition is all temporal, it's all momentary, they are all inevitable. Don't cry, right? You have to bear with them, and bearing with these kind of physical pains, these temporal physical pains, is what a dhira, a great wise man, will do, right? In order to pledge himself to the path of immortality and things like that. And many other things also spoken, right? We can't recap everything. We have to repeat all the shlokas, but for the conciseness of it, first he cancels all the physical conditions to be temporal. You have to elevate yourself to much higher level of understanding, which is the Atma, which is coming from the Avinashi, which is the Paramatma, right? Atma is always linked to the Paramatma. We always say Atmane Namaha, Antaratmane Namaha, Paramatmane Namaha. We have that interconnection. Look at the Paramatma, you have nothing to worry, right? So he brings that perspective, and not as simply as I put it, but very, very nicely put by Krishna in his own words, right? Those 20 shlokas from shloka number 11. And then from shloka number 31 to 40, where Arjuna's worry was about dharma, Krishna brings the attention towards Swadharma. Look at Swadharma. You have nothing better to do than this war, right? Abdicating from this Swadharma will not only bring you bad name, it will also doesn't take you anywhere higher, right? Naraka. This Swadharma, this Yuddha, Dharma Yuddha, which is your Swadharma, is what is the door for Swarga for you. So he explains that also, right? And Swarga is also something higher. And this is also underlying question from Arjuna, right? What is great for me? Help me understand what is great for me. So there, the attention is completely drawn from overall dharma, Kula dharma, Jati dharma, Sanatana dharma, that Arjuna was talking about in the first chapter. Krishna brings it very, very specific to Swadharma. Boss, look at this Swadharma. There is no loss of effort in Swadharma. There is no side effect in Swadharma. Whatever you do will be good for you. You will attain Swarga through this Swadharma. You will also have name through this Swadharma. Right? A few things that he mentions. Then for the fact that Arjuna confesses towards the last part of his expression of Vishada, right, his grief, Arjuna expresses points around how he is completely lost. So Krishna's third part of the speech, third part of the discourse that we heard so far from shloka number 11 to shloka number 53. So this 43 is what I would count as second round of Bhagavad-Gita, right? So each round is in itself a complete the Purnamadaha Purnamidam, right? Everything is full. Every single discourse of Krishna in itself is a full speech, right? We have the entire Bhagavad-Gita in those single piece conversations of Bhagavan, like the two shlokas of shloka number 2 and 3 of the second chapter. This is one Bhagavan Vacha to another Bhagavan Vacha, right? That's a full Bhagavad Gita. Again, another Bhagavan Vacha is shloka number 11 to 53. That's another full Bhagavad Gita. Now we will see another shloka number 55 to shloka number 72 is another full set. Straight away, another 20 odd shlokas. Fully, Bhagavan Vacha. That should be another third round of Bhagavad Gita or third Bhagavad Gita. We can see it, in different ways, right? So these 43 shlokas from shloka number 11 to 53, the third section is all about Buddhi Yukta, how you should not lose your mind, how you should, why you should not lose your mind, how and why, how you should be Buddhi Yukta. Yukta Buddhi is a firmly engaged Buddhi. Like, he says, once you are established in the Buddhi, you only have one path to choose. You will not have confusion. That's the whole nature of Buddhi Yukta. And before that, he says, like, if you do Buddhi Yukta Yoga, you don't have any karma bandha. There is no karma imprint. There is no residual karma debt that we acquire, right? There is nothing like that. And then he goes on to explain, right? In between, we also see karmanyavadikaraste. In terms of Mahaphaleshu Karachana, you only have entitlement for your duties, not on the fruits of the action. Don't be hooked on to the fruits of the action, or nor do you have to think that you are the cause of these results and things like that. And also at the end of it, don't stay attached to inordained action. Akarmani, mate sangha. And before that, he also appeared to be cancelling Vedas, but he didn't actually cancel the Vedas. What he says, what we could hear towards the end is, the Vedic scriptures, they are all trigunatmaka. They are all filled with the triguna amsha, right? The sattva, rajo, tamo amsha. There is a lot of chances that people get swayed by these Vedic injectures and go behind getting material benefits. And to that extent, when we hear the Vedic scriptures, they sound like that. They sound like there is no other, there is nothing other than what is there, and it all talks about prosperity, propensity, opulence. This is what we see in the Vedic mantras, right? And Krishna says, don't bother. If you are a Brahmana, which is you are on the path of Brahma, you don't have to really bother, right? So Arjuna has been referred to as Brahmana. Arjuna has been referred to as Pandita, which is very unlike our understanding of the society, right? So yeah, this is another point we can perhaps consider. And also Buddhi Yukta, right? You will be freed from all types of issues, all types of problems if you're Buddhi Yukta, if you're resolute in your thinking. So that's what we see, right? And then also, whatever we speak need not be the final saying on the Bhagavad-Gita. I think we have spoken about this n number of times, that even when people tend to bring about a book called Bhagavad-Gita as it is, after deep research and things like that, there will be criticism that, this is not what Krishna has said. So there can never be a final word on the Gita. To that extent, we also did look at one shloka in particular, I think shloka number 50 in the previous class, where the yoga karmasu kaushalam, like, buddhi yukto jahatiha, the buddhi yukta fellow, the one with resolute buddhi, jahati, he will cross over, sukrute, ubhe sukrute dushkrute, even the problems of good deeds and the bad deeds, right? He will clear all of these. What could be the problem of the good deeds is another question that might arise. But we need to understand in simple terms that when we do good things also, the punya that we acquire, right? Sometimes we get the ishta punya, sometimes we get the anishta punya, right? So the fruits that we get for the good deed, may not be looking good. It's like in some places the prasada is not the most tastiest, but we consume it because it's good, right? Like for example, we have in South India, uh, we have this Yugadi, the New Year, right? In the New Year, we have a prasada that comes on the day of the New Year, which is a combination of jaggery and neem churned together. Right? It's a prasada. It's good for us to have it. It's good for the health, but tastes very horrible. Right? None of us like it. So sometimes the results of the good action may not be likable. So irrespective of that, right? When you are buddhi yukta, you will overcome all of these issues. That's what he says in the sloka number 50. And then he says, therefore you get engaged in yoga. Yoga is nothing but, so he says a line, right? Yoga karma su kaushalam. Just out of academic interest, we saw that being translated in three different ways or understood in three different ways. Yoga karmasu kaushalam can be yoga is karmasu in karma in action. Kaushalam is good, right? So yoga is good in action. So yoga can be good only in action, not in inaction, right? So that's one way of looking at it. And yoga is kaushalam karmasu. Yoga is yoga only in good, well executed work or skillfully executed task. So whatever is executed skillfully itself is yoga. That's another way of looking at it. Like and kaushalam karmasu yoga. Like so there is a third way of looking at it, right? So there are three different ways in which we looked at that entire thing. One is yoga is good only in karma. Okay. Another thing is yoga is well executed action. Right? That's the second one. I keep forgetting the third one. I don't know why. Yeah. So there are different ways in which we looked at the meanings, and that is where whatever we look at from now on also, perhaps that is not the end of it, right? Okay. Then we finally said that, okay, finally we come to the state where being the sita buddhi, sira buddhi, buddhi yukta, right? Being firmly engaged with the buddhi when you perform the yoga actions, which is basically the another name we give, right? Vyavasayatmika buddhi or stira buddhi or stita buddhi or stitadhi or, samadhi, right? There are different ways in which we understand that. Finally, he brings it to the state of okay, understand this is the state of samadhi. Now, at this point, we now move into shloka number 53. 54, right? This is where, okay, Arjuna got the entire message. Stop crying. Okay, get back to embracing Swadharma. And third point is be buddhi yukta. Be siddha buddhi. Be stira buddhi. Be samadhi. Samadhi, samahadi, or samadhi. Dhi is basically buddhi, right? So he got that message. So he has the first question now. Okay, or rather the second question in total. But in the bigger Bhagavad-Gita, this is the first question that he has. Okay, you told me all of this, Krishna. This is the question, right? Shloka number 54. The web link is given. This is a beautiful website. There are limitations in everything that anybody tries to speak about Bhagavad-Gita. We have to reconcile to that fact. In whatever I say, there will be plenty of issues. Everyone will have more to add in Bhagavad-Gita. Such is the depth of the scripture. There will be shortcomings in every material, in every website, but we should appreciate things for what they are worth. So, and this website is a beautiful website to that extent, to whatever we try to do. Click on the link, we move to shloka number 54 of the second adhyaya. That is where we begin. So, we begin with this shloka. There is a new question from Arjuna. One round of Bhagavad-Gita is delivered by Krishna. Now, we have more from Arjuna. Now, let's understand this, right? See, Arjuna is a beautiful company for us in the class. So if we are sitting in the Gita class, Arjuna is our classmate. And he is the best classmate, the most intelligent classmate, the most nerdy classmate. The good thing about the nerds is that, they are not with us. They are ahead, right? They are always in the first bench. They are the first benches. The good thing about them being in the first benches, many a times they ask those questions that will elevate our understanding of the entire subject, right? If we were to be taking the download from the teacher, from the Gita Acharya directly without such company of nerds, of good nerds, like amazing nerds, maybe there will be a lot of shortcoming in our understanding. There are these first benchers, all through my education, I had these first benchers who would ask questions that I wanted to ask, but I just didn't have that realization at that point in time. But when they asked, when the answers came through, I got a lot more richer in terms of my understanding. And that's what Arjuna does, right? If it were to be us, just to take the message from Sri Krishna, perhaps our understanding may not be well rounded, so well rounded. With the company of Arjuna, we get to experience that more rounded understanding. Let's see what Arjuna asks. Okay, Shloka number 54. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitadhihi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Okay, let's look at the Padacheda. Padacheda, scroll down a little bit, you'll see a section called the Padacheda. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitadhihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. Now, when we put that into a prose order, right, a proper sentence where spoken Samskrita kind of format, Arjuna Uvacha, He Keshava, Samadhisthasya Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha. So, just above the Padacheda, we have this Anvaya section, right? That is where we get to see the prose order. The same words of the shloka is rearranged to get a proper, prose sense, right? So, Arjuna Uvacha, He Keshava, Samadhisthasya Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha Sitadhihi Kim Prabhasheta Kim Asita Kim Vrajeta. He's asking multiple questions, four questions, and four question marks. What does it mean? When you go on top, scroll up a little bit, you see a section called the dictionary, right? Click on that. When you click on that, Hey Keshava, oh Krishna. Keshava is a word, right? As Ka Isha Va. There are different ways of looking at this, right? One who destroyed one who destroyed Keshi demon is also Keshava. Ka Ishava is also one who is worshipped by Ka, which is Chaturmukha Brahma, and Isha, which is Rudra Devaru, right? So he's also worshipped by these forces. And again, there are different ways of looking at the word Keshava. We'll not get into it. But Hey Keshava, oh Krishna, Samadhistasya, Samadho Sthitaha Samadhistaha. One who's in the state of Samadhi, he Samadhistha, like Grihastha, Grihestha, right? Kutastha, Kutestha. You see many things where you get this stha being added to indicate that somebody is seated in that place. Samadho Sthitaha, Samadhistaha, Tasya, Samadhistasya. Of the person who's in the state of Samadhi, right? Of the person who's in the state of Samadhi, that person who's also Sita Prajnasya, of the person who's got the Sita Prajna. Okay, so Prajna we saw that, right? Prakarshana Jnanam, the enlightening kind of a knowledge. And Sita, stable, very, very stable, right? Sita Prajnasya, very stable, enlightened fellow. Of that person, Ka Bhasha, what's his, how does he look like? What is he? Ka Bhasha, what is a person who's Sita Prajna, who's in the state of Samadhi? Sita Prajnasya, Samadhistasya, again of the same person, Kim Prabhasheta, how does he speak? Why would he speak? Or Kim can be how or why. Right? Kim is what, but here we can understand that to be both how and why. Why would he speak? What does he speak? What does he sit? Or why would he sit? Or what is this stance? Like what is this thought? Kim Asita is basically sit, the position of seat, right? But Asita can be what is his position? Kim Vrajeta, why would he move? Why would he act? Why would he go anywhere? Where does he go? Now, this is very interesting, right? When we look at this, let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says for this. We click back on the shloka, link called the shloka on top, and you come back to the main page of the shloka, and you scroll down a little bit under the Padacheda, we have something called the Sri Aurobindo interpretation. That says, Arjuna says, Hey Krishna, that is being spoken. What is the sign of the man in Samadhi whose intelligence is firmly fixed in wisdom? So that's the definition of Sita Prajna. Intelligence is firmly fixed in wisdom. What is the sign of a man in Samadhi whose intelligence is firmly fixed in wisdom? How does the sage of settled understanding speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Or we can also say, why would he sit? Why would he speak? Why would he walk? Or what is his state of speech? What is his state of being? What is his state of action? Right? We can look at it in different ways. So let's see this. I think one side, see, again, right? This is again limiting. This is perhaps one of the limitations of the interpretations that we see, right? The website has interpreted Sita Prajna, but retained the word Samadhi. So if you retain both Samadhi and Sita Prajna, maybe the question is, okay, Krishna, define Samadhi. Okay, define a person who is in the state of Samadhi. Define a person who is in Sita Prajna. Right? Help me understand these two terms. Because, see, when you look at this, right, the shloka number 11 to 30, don't cry, started with the line that, Prajnavadan Shabhashase, you speak like a Prajnavada. And we saw the interpretation of Prajnavada. It can be Prajnavada, that, you speak like a learned person, or it can be Prajna Avada, that you have lost your Prajna. And finally, in shloka number 30, when he restores back his senses and says, don't cry, perhaps it is restoring the prajna, right? It is restoring the prajna. That you shouldn't lose your prajna. That's a enlightening kind of a understanding, right? So the question then from Arjuna could be quite natural. Okay, you want me to be a Sita Prajna, help me understand what is the Sita Prajna. Okay, help me. And now in shloka number 41 till about shloka number 53, it's all about buddhi, right? Chira buddhi, Javasayatmika buddhi to the state of samadhi. In shloka number 53, he says, right? Samadha vachala buddhi tata yogam avapsasi. In that state of samadhi, in that state of unmoving, unwandering buddhi, you will attain yoga. And yoga is what Paramashreshtha for you. And that's the question that Arjuna has asked. Like, tell me what is Shreyaskara. Like, Yat Shreyasyam Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme. Shloka number 7. That's the question from Arjuna, for which we heard that entire message from shloka number 11 to shloka number 53, right? So, coming back, the interpretation could be that, help me understand what is Samadhi, help me understand what is Sita Prajna. And very importantly, why would a person of Sita Prajna Samadhi speak? Why would he, what are his thoughts? What are his speech? What are his actions? Because there is no need, right? I mean, when you look at it in a very, very, and Arjuna is a learned person, right? He's not and all the messages, all the wisdom related message in Bhagavad-Gita are known about Avinashi. Of the, one second, give me about a minute, I'll just come back. Hello?
You are okay now, Bharataji.
Okay, thank you. No, I just had to put my phone on the airplane mode. Okay. So the question could be that, in a state of samadhi, in a state of Sita Prajna, what is the need for speech? What is the need for any thoughts? What is the need for any action? Right? And that perhaps is one of the questions that's coming. Like, you spoke about getting back to the Prajna. You spoke about being in the state of samadhi, O Krishna. Tell me what is the samadhi Sita Prajnasya Bhasha? Okay, how do you define that kind of a person? Who's a Sita Prajna? Who's samadhi? And why would a person of samadhi and Sita Prajna speak, walk, or have any thoughts? Like, so again, Prabhasha, Asita, Vrajeta can be in a Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, right? Asita is the state of Manas. Prabhasheta is the state of speech. Vrajeta is the state of action. Like, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. So three different ways. We can look at it in different ways, right? So beautiful question from Arjuna. Let's see what Krishna answers it, right? We'll go on top of the screen. We click on next, right? Click on next. We get into sloka number 55. It reads like this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha Stita Prajnastadochyate. Scroll down and see the Padacheda. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmani Eva becomes Atmanyeva. Atmani Eva eva atmana, atmanyeva atmana. So there are two sandhis there. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnaha tada uchyate sthita prajnas tadochyate. There are two sandhis again. Sthita prajnaha tada, sthita prajnas tada uchyate tadochyate. There are two sandhis there. When we put these split words into proper sentence format, we read the Anvaya, right? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, just on top of Padacheda we have Anvaya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, He Partha, Yada Manogatan Sarvan Kaman Prajahati, Atmana Atmani Eva Tushtaha, Tada Sita Prajnaha Uchyate. How do you define a Sita Prajna? Answer to how do you define a Sita Prajna comes in this shloka, right? Very easy. What does it mean? We click on dictionary. Right? Hey Partha, hey Pritha's son, O Arjuna, Yada, just as and when, okay, when, as and when, Manogatan Sarvan Kaman, the all desires that enter your manas, that belong to the manas or that kind of, overwhelm your manas, right? All Manogatan Sarvan Kaman, all desires that enter your mind, Prajahati. Jaha means kill. Prajahati. You overcome them. Like, you expel them. If a person who expels all the desires that enter the mind, enter the manas, and Atmana Atmani eva tushtaha gets contained within himself for his self. Okay, so there is a lot of tushta, santushta, right? Happiness for himself within himself. Tada, thereafter, Sita Prajna Uchyate. He will be known as a Sita Prajna. Right? So there are two questions then perhaps, right? He only answers one half of it. Who is a Sita Prajna? Who is a Samadhi? Right? Who is the state of Samadhi? What is the state of Samadhi? What is the state of Sita Prajna? Answer comes very easy. You overcome all the Manokamanai, right? All the Kamanas that enter your manas, and you stay content within yourself. You will then be called a Sita Prajna. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. On top, again, click on the link called Shloka, scroll down a little bit, see Aurobindo interpretation. The Blessed Lord said, okay, this is too much of translation of everything, right? So, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, that's the translation of that. When a man expels all desires from his mind and is satisfied in the self by the self, then he is called Sita Prajna. I'm not translating that, right? Stable in intelligence. No. Sita Prajna Prakarshana Jnana, because not intelligence. Intelligence is buddhi. Let's not mix it up. At least I am little averse to mixing them up. Right? The Antakaranas need to be called out separately. In as much distinction as possible. This is keep them separately. Right? Very easy. If a man overcomes all the desires in the mind and stays content within himself, he is a Sita Prajna. What is a Sita Prajna? Who is a Sita Prajna? We get the answer. Next, I think there is another definition of buddhi, right? Sita buddhi, Sita samadhi. Next, click on the next. We come to shloka number 56. And I think we get the definition of Sita dhi. Sita dhi, Sita buddhi. Dhi is buddhi, right? Dhiyo yona prachodhyat. We ask for buddhi prachodana, right? Shloka number 56 reads like this. Dukkheshvanudvignamanaha sukheshu vigatasprihah vitaraga bhayakrodha Stitadhir muniruchyate. Right? Dukkheshvanudvignamanaha Sukheshu vigatasprihah Vitaraga bhayakrodha Stitadhir muniruchyate. When we break it down, Padacheda, Dukkheshu Anudvignamanaha Sukheshu vigatasprihah Vitaraga bhayakrodha Stitadhihi munihi uchyate. Right? What does it mean when we put into the Anvaya? Dukkheshu anudvignamanaha Sukheshu vigatasprihah Vitaraga bhayakrodha munihi Stitadhihi iti uchyate. Right? So small, placement here and there. Most likely the shloka itself is in the Anvaya, in a proper sentence format. But what does it mean? We have to now click on the link on the dictionary. Okay, Dukkheshu, in sorrow. Anudvignamanaha, doesn't lose it. Okay, the mind is undisturbed. Okay, stays unflustered, right? Doesn't lose it. Sukeshu, in Sukha, in pleasure, Vigata Spriha, Vigata, having overcome. Gata is gone, Vigata is not gone. So we have to get into the fun of the language, but Vigata, having overcome. Spriha, that any excitement and things like that. So free from desire. So in dukkha you don't really lose it. In sukha you don't really jump up in joy, right? So the way we can understand colloquially, Vita raga bhaya krodha. Vita is having overcome, right? Vita raga bhaya krodha, the attachment, the fear, and the anger. Sthitadhi munihi, that sage, the muni, the sage, right? Sitadhihi uchyate. Sitadhi, sirabuddhi, uchyate is known as. So that muni, one who can overcome, basically it's all about mind, right? Manas. One who can control the manas is the one who is a sitabuddhi, who does not let his intelligence being overpowered by the expressions or the feelings of the manas, right? So we have to primarily take away. Like today, we see that, right? In a lot of things, including the political discourses, people take up some emotional pitch and then they amplify it so much so that we lose the buddhi. Like, oh, in Bengal, so much of violence, this party is not doing anything for them, they are bad, and then these are all like, oh, I spoke to the Uber driver said this is what is happening in the country. Take some emotional pitch, amplify it, right? This is typically the hijack policy, right? Because emotionally we can be fools, and then somehow emotionally compassionate is taken a different route altogether. Kali, that's why we call it the Kali Yuga, right? So if you then question somebody that how can you hijack me emotionally, you will be seen as a stone-hearted fellow, cold-hearted fellow. So virtues have been slightly mispainted, right, in the society today. But what it basically says, when you are in the state of happiness, don't jump up. In the state of sorrow, don't lose it. Right? Keep the buddhi intact, right? And he's been speaking about this, labha labho jayajayo, sukha dukhe same kritva, labha labho jayajayo. He spoke about that in explaining the buddhi yukta, the dharma part of it. Don't lose it, right? He spoke about that very, very clearly. And now he's telling it very, very technical answer to it, right? So between these two shlokas, we get technical answers. But all these things are easier said than done, right? Most of the things that we hear in Bhagavad-Gita, we have to practice them. That is no doubt about it. Because some of these definitions come very, very easy. Like, Sita Prajna, okay, overcome all the desires and be happy within you. You are a Sita Prajna. Sitadhi, okay, overcome your tendency to jump up in joy when you have happiness and cry a lot and lose your mind completely when you have something unpleasant happening, and then you express raga, bhaya, krodha, the attachment that this is my family, my daughter, I have to kiss her goodnight, I can't go to office without waving waving to my daughter. I mean, she might be sleeping, or I will miss my office bus in order in my pursuit of waiting for my daughter to kiss me goodbye, right? So things like that, raga, bhaya, krodha, overcome all of these things, the mental weaknesses, and keep the buddhi resolute, intact. That's a sirabuddhi, sitadhi, sirabuddhi, samadhi. Most of them tend to mean the same. So we got the definition, one line definition. Be content within. You are a sita prajna. Overcome the mental weaknesses, of the mind, the emotional quotient. You are a sirabuddhi. Right? Vita raga bhaya krodha. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Come back on the shloka link and scroll down. You'll see Aurobindo interpretation. He whose mind is undisturbed in the midst of sorrows and amid pleasures is free from desire, from whom liking and fear and wrath have passed away, is the sage of settled understanding. Okay, too much English there, but let's keep some of them as non-translatable. Words like manas, words like sitadhi, I think let's keep them as non-translatable. But yeah, this is a good translation nonetheless, right? We move now. So very simple definitions, right? What is a sita prajna? One who is content within. Who is a sitadhi? One who can separate the emotions and keep the buddhi away from raga, bhaya, krodha, right? Don't have anger. It might be another thing. Like, sometimes we may have to feign anger. We may have to raise the pitch, but not out of emotion, right? So that's a fine line distinction. Like, for example, samadana, beda, danda. We may have to whip somebody. We may have to spank children sometimes to teach them some good habits and things like that, but not out of emotion, right? It has to be done in a very, very dispassionate. So this is where it's not easy to do some of these things. Like, when in Karmanya Vadikara, shloka number 47, where he says, Mate sangaha astu akarmani. Let there be no attachment for you in inaction or inordinate action, right? It's not easy to stay without any attachment. We are attracted to binge eating, binge drinking, binge watching, like many things. Binge is a fashion statement today. Like, I will do binge this, binge that. Right? It's not easy to stay away from attachment. It has to be done through a lot of practice, a lot of determination. That is where we get to hear when we see the Purushottama Yoga. I think that's what we saw, right? Asanga Shastrena, Dridhena Chitva. Our actions in life should be with a lot of detached, weaponry, like equipped with a lot of detachment in us and a lot of determination. It's not easy to stay that way. So these definitions are easy, overcoming all the kamanaya, manokamanaya, and atmanyeva, and being content with him, and then keeping all the emotions at bay, and then not showing any raga, bhaya, krodha. Right? It's easier said than done. Right? So let's see why. And I think Krishna explains those also very nicely. We move on to shloka number 57 now. It reads like this: Yah sarvatranabhisneha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. Right? And read like this: Yah sarvatranabhisneha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. Scroll down a little bit. Padacheda. Yaha sarvatra, sarvatra anabhisneha, sarvatra anabhisneha, anabhisneha tatra, tat tat, anabhisnehas tat tat, tat tat prapya, shubha ashubham, shubha ashubham, na abhinandati becomes na abhinandati, na dveshti, tasya prajna pratisthita. Right? The Anvaya. Yaha sarvatra anabhisneha. tat tat shubham ashubham prapya na abhinandati na dveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. More explanation. What the state of a sita prajna, right? State of a sita dhi, sita prajna. He explains. With a little more elaborate explanation. Let's see what it means when we click on dictionary. Yaha, the one, right? He who. Right? Sarvatra anabhisneha. In all things, everywhere. Anabhisneha, na abhisneha, like without any attachment, without any affection. Sneha is friendship, right? Or affection, like anabhisneha, without any affection, without any attachment. Tat tat shubha ashubha, whatever comes, shubha or ashubha, whether it's good or bad. Prapya, having obtained, having attained. Na abhinandati, like when shubha comes, we always jump up in joy. Nor rejoice, na abhinandati, nor rejoices, na dveshti, nor hates neither, right? So if shubha comes, no abhinandana. If ashubha comes, no dvesha. Whatever comes, I take it, right? Which is the atmanyevatmana tushtaha, the chitta prajna, right? Explains the guy, the person who in all the things, in all the actions, everywhere, every time, whatever comes, if shubha comes, doesn't abhinandana, doesn't show abhinandana. If ashubha comes, does not show dvesha. His prajna is pratishtita. Tasya prajna, his prajna is pratishtita, is firm, firmly seated. Pratishtita, like tishtita, like there. Prakarshanena tishtita. Tishtita is standing, like firmly standing with a lot of enlightened state. Right? Pratishtita. Pra is a very nice upasarga. Right? It's a very nice prefix. Prakarshanena. Pratishtita, nicely positioned, nicely seated, right? Very firmly seated. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Click back on the shloka. It says, he in all things, is without affection though visited by his good or that evil, and neither hates nor rejoices. His intelligence sits firmly founded in wisdom. I think we should keep a few of these words as they are rather than translating them. So, Tasya Prajna, his Prajna is Pratishtita. I think we understand the word Pratishtita better than firmly found in wisdom. So, Pratishtita is very firmly there. And so, it's there. I think good translation, but sometimes it might get a little confusing. Not all of us are in the same, at least not me. So I would rather keep them simple. Let's move on. So again, he goes on to explain more and more elaborate because the one line definition is simple. Okay. Sarvan Manogatan Kaman Prajahati, right? And Atmanyevatmana Santushta. Like, that guy is a prajna, right? We saw that one who overcomes all the manokamana and stays happy, content within Isatita Prajna. But there is more, right? There is also overcome the emotion. Whatever comes, good, bad, don't jump up in joy, don't lose it, no, don't get flustered, then you are a Sita Prajna, right? You move on to the next one, sloka number 58 now. It reads like this. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashah Indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. Right? So when we look at the Padacheda, yada samharate cha ayam is chayam, kurmaha angani becomes kurmongani, angani iva becomes angani iva, kurmaha angani iva sarvashaha, indriyani indriyarthebhyah, indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. What does the Anvaya sound like? Kurmaha sarvashaha angani yatha samharate tativa yada cha ayam indriyarthebhyah indriyani samharate tasya prajna pratisthita. Okay, what does it mean? Click back on the dictionary. Yada, just like how or when, just like how kurmaha sarvashaha angani iva samharate. We have to understand samharate. Samharate. Harate is actually kill. Samharate can be like, overcome or withdraw. In this case, withdraw. Right? Yada, just like how kurmaha, the tortoise, sarvashaha, okay, from all directions, angani samharate, okay, withdraws the limbs. So when does the tortoise withdraw the limbs? When it senses danger. Right? We have to understand that. So, beautiful example. Just like how the tortoise withdraws the limbs, withdraws all the organs, right? Angani, sarvashaha, from all directions. Samharate, withdraws, goes into the shell, right? Tortoise gets into the shell. Iva, just like that. I am this indriyarthebhyah, from the objects of sense experience, right? Like any sight, any sound, anything to touch, feel, all the sense experiences. Okay, from the objects of sense experiences, indriyani, the sense organs, samharate, again kills them or withdraws them, right? Draws away. Tasya prajna, his prajna, pratisthita, is well established, is firmly established, right? So that's the kind of an impression. What does it mean? See, this is a beautiful simile being drawn, right? It's a beautiful example. Just like how the tortoise withdraws its organs into the shell, similarly, a person can withdraw his sense organs from contact, from indulgence with the sense experiences. His prajna is established. It's sita, very firmly established. Now, a couple of things about this simile, this example, is that, see, there are 5 things that get retracted in a tortoise, right? The 4 limbs and the head, all 5 get inside. 2, they get retracted when there is a sense of danger, whenever there is a sense of danger. 3, the retraction happens swiftly. Okay, no sweat. Okay, at least we don't see that. The way, the action that we see from the tortoise looks very, very swift. So three things, right? Whenever we sense danger, what is danger for sense experiences? Indulgence. Okay, indulgence is the danger. Whenever we sense indulgence, we have to withdraw all sense organs, right? Withdraw them all, right? Withdraw them all. And how? Swiftly, without trouble, without difficulty. That's not easy for us. All of these things are easier said than done, right? Not easy for us, right? Let's see what the interpretation from Sri Aurobindo comes. When you see this, who draws away the senses from the objects of senses, just like the tortoise draws its limbs into the shell, his intelligence is firmly found in wisdom. Okay, just like how the tortoise can withdraw its head and limbs into the shell upon sensing danger and swiftly, right? If a person can withdraw his sense organs from indulgences, he is Sita Prajna. His Prajna is Pratishtita, well established, right? So let's retain some of the non-translatables. We move on now. That's a beautiful example. So some of these similes that are brought out in Bhagavad-Gita are brilliant. Pravina Bhagini may not be here with us today in today's session. Maybe she's busy with something else. But she is working on a project, her personal project of culling out all the similes brought out in Bhagavad-Gita. Maybe one day we should keep a stage to hear that out, right? So, yeah. We move on now to the next shloka, shloka number 59. Go on top of the screen and click on next. We will move on to the next shloka. It says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param društva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param društva nivartate. Well, it's not easy, right? Kurma, what it does in the previous shloka, the tortoise, its withdrawal of the limbs is very swift, right? But for us, it's not easy. That's known. Let's see what comes in this shloka. This is the Padacheda. Vishayaha vinivartante is Vishaya vinivartante. So there is a very normal tendency for the Visarga to undergo lopa, disappear. The two dot aha often tends to disappear, lopa. Vishayaha vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasaha api asya param društva nivartate. Rasaha api rasopi. So api asya apyasya. So there are a couple of sandhis. We'll leave it there. But anvaya, coming back to anvaya, niraharasya dehinaha vishayaha rasavarjam vinivartante. Asya rasaha api param društva nivartate. Very beautiful. Let's see what it means when we click back on dictionary, right? Niraharasya dehinaha, the one of a person who is abstaining from food. Dehinaha, again beautifully, of the soul, right? Of the Atma. Dehinaha is the one inside the Dehi. Okay, the one who is inside the Deha is a Dehinaha or Dehi or Sharirinaha. Those are the terms that we've been using in this chapter, right? Right from the 13th, 14th shloka of this chapter, we are hearing these terms. I think 13th shloka is where we hear this word Dehinaha first, right? So, Dehinaha, the one who is inside the body, of which body? Niraharasya, the body which is fasting, right? Abstaining from food. Vishayaha rasavarjam. Okay, Vishayaha, in the objects of senses, rasavarjam, without affection, right? Rasa varjam, varja is abandoned. Vinivartante, ceases to affect. Okay. Asya rasaha api, the rasa, the juice, the mojo also, param društva nivartate. Okay. Looking at the Supreme, nivartate, ceases to be. See, couple of things about this. Whenever we say nirahara, ahara, ahara can be literally food, but I think we also spoke about ahara being any sense experience. We are consuming them, right? We are eating, we are consuming. Many sense, like now I'm seeing the screen, my computer screen. I'm actually consuming the information. I hear something, then I consume the sound waves, right? If I touch something, I'm consuming the touch. So see, ahara, the food, essentially is the ultimate sense experience in every good food. we have something good to see. Today, when we see Master Chef and all, presentation takes the cake, right? It's got everything, presentation. So good food should always have something good to see. A good food should have something good to hear. Like we hear crunchy, like soup, like the sound of the food is also good, right? So crunchy, crackling, like these sounds are very important. Like soup, like when we sip the slurp the soup also, that soup sound should come. So food is all about sight, sound, like good to see, good to touch. Like stale food, more than being stale, if the temperature is cold, you don't like it. Microwave oven is so famous because reheat, right? Reheating the food. Temperature has to be good because the touch experience has to be good. When we touch the food, that experience has to be good. So something good to touch, something good to see, something good to sound, something good to smell also. Taste can be sweet, but if it smells horrible, doesn't go well, right? It has to be a combination of good smell and of course the taste. All five sense experiences are loaded in good food, right? So ahara can be sense experience, but literally ahara can also be mean food, right? Nirahara sadehnaha, right? The person who is fasting, of a person who is fasting, vishayaha rasavarjam vinivartante. All the all that has to be abandoned, right? Will easily cease to be, right? When you I mean, for those people who have experienced fasting, ekadashi, many people do nirjala, they don't even sip a drop of water. Nirjala ekadashi, right? Like today some people do, tomorrow shashti, a lot of people do shashti upvas also, right? So, and now is the Gupta Navaratri happening. A lot of people do fasting during these 9 days. Okay, this is the fifth day now. For the last 5 days and for the next 4 more days, people do upvas there also. Upvas, I mean, there are different ways of looking at the word upvasa. We'll not get into that. But as an example, right, people who fast, for them, they have no craving for anything, right? Only if somebody is frying bonda, we will get attracted there. Ah, smell. Because these are attractions. If we come to Facebook, Twitter, in WhatsApp, if people are sharing food pictures, we will get irritated when we fast. Like, the food is the only thing that's craving. Other than that, do you want to watch a movie? Not interested. My favorite band, music, live show is coming up. Oh, not interested. Like, we are least interested in everything else. So, for a nirahara sadehina, for a person who is abstaining from food, rasavarjam vishayaha vinivartante. Whatever has to be abandoned, in terms of objects of senses, the sense experiences will easily cease to be. But rasa, right, the craving for the taste remains. Person who does the ekadashi, right? For him, you talk about what is the food being made for the next day for breaking the fast. That's a very interesting topic because we constantly think about the same thing. If the neighborhood is, like I said that, right? If neighborhood is frying some pakoda, bhaji and all, I mean, that's the biggest torture because that rasa, that mojo, that craving is still there. Asya rasaha api, even his craving also, even the rasa also ceases to be, okay, nivartate, param drishtva eva, only by looking at that ultimate. What is that ultimate? We spoke about that, we spoke about that a little earlier. So, so what he says is, it's not easy. Like, it's not even for a person who is fasting also, it's not easy to withdraw from all the senses. In physically, when we keep ourselves away from the food also, mentally that craving remains. And in order for that craving to completely disappear, you have to have that sparsha of drishta, of the param, of the supreme, right? Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvam. So we spoke about that. Look at the supreme only will help you overcome complete detachment. So Sita Prajna, Sitadhi, the definition is very easy, Partha, right? Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha Sita Prajna, Vitaraga Payakrodaha Sitadhi. Very easy, but it's not easy, right? The definition is easy, but being one is far from easy. You have to look at the para, you have to look at the ultimate. The definition is easy. Whenever you get something Shubha, no Abhinandana. Whenever you get something Ashubha, no Dvesha. Like, that's a Sita Prajna, very easy, but it's not easy to be, right? You withdraw your sense organs just like how the kurma withdraws its limbs. Very easy to see, very easy to know also, speak also. But is it easy for us to withdraw the senses? No. So he explains that even when you are completely fasting, that rasa remains, that mojo, that craving remains. You will have to overcome that craving only by looking at that. And this is the extreme case of fasting, right? We don't fast every day. On a daily basis, our senses are everywhere, scattered everywhere, right? So that's another thing. Right? He explains that also. So this is the thing about this shloka. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Okay. He says, if one abstains from food, the objects of sense ceases to affect, but the affection itself of the sense, the rasa, remains. The rasa also ceases when the supreme is seen. I think somewhere close, but a deeper contemplation perhaps helps us settle down nicely into these shlokas. Right? For many of us, that's why we are not at the level of Arjuna. So we should not mock at Arjuna. Arjuna could get the message. We need bhashyas after bhashyas to understand what Krishna is trying to say. And even after a lot of study, we still don't know, right? And that's not the intention. Whatever little we know, we understand. I think we have to implement those in our lives. That's the whole thing about the crux of studying Gita. We go on now. Move on to shloka number 60. Shloka number 60 reads like this. Click on next on top of the screen, right? So, yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. So, yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. What does the Padachveda give us? Yatataha hi yatato hi. There is a sandhi. Hi api hi api. Right? There is another sandhi. Kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. No more sandhis. Two sandhis in the first line. Right? How does it sound in the prose order? We read the Anvaya. Hey Kaunteya, pramathini indriyani yatataha vipaschitaha purushasya api manaha prasabham harantihi. He's giving a direct statement, a didactic kind of a statement. Tattva, right? What does it mean? We click on dictionary. Hey Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, O Arjuna, pramathini indriyani, the turbulent indriyas. Pramathini indriyani, the turbulent indriyas. Indriya, the sense organs are very, very turbulent. Okay, that is implied, right? Very, very turbulent. Because that's why we call them as Ashwa, right? In many, many Upanishads and all, they call the Indriyas as Ashwa because the horse is always restless and very powerful. He's always on the move, constantly moves. I think we spoke about this elaborately when we spoke about the Ashwatha in the Urdhva Mula Madha Shaka, the 15th chapter, right? We spoke about this. But the Indriyas are very, very turbulent, like the horse, forceful, and they are always on the move. My eyes, when I open, will not stop until the first object of sight is come. Until then, it keeps on extending itself. Similarly, the sound also. The ear keep on extending itself till the first wave of sound is kind of touched. So that's a constant thing. They keep running like a horse. Yatataha vipaschitaha purushasya. Yatataha is enduring, striving, hardworking. Vipaschitaha, paschitaha. Paschitaha is seen. Vipaschitaha, visheshataha paschitaha. Who understands things very nicely. Purushasya, of the person. Of a person who is very hardworking and very well knowledgeable also. Very well discerning also. Even of that person, the turbulent indriyas will prasabham haranti manaha. His manaha will be prasabham, forcibly haranti, carried away. He indeed. Okay, because rasavajam rasopyasya param drishtva eva nivartate. That rasa, that mojo, that craving should cease only when you look at the Supreme, because even for a well-enduring person, enduring, knowledgeable, wise, discerning person, a Kaunteya or Kuntiputra, even for that person, the Indriyas are so turbulent that they forcibly snatch away the mana. Indeed, he is indeed, verily, surely, right? So that's the thing. So he makes the statement very nicely. Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Click back on the shloka link and scroll down a little bit. We get to see Aurobindo interpretation. Hey Kaunteya, hey Kuntiputra, even the mind of the wise man who labors for perfection, yatataha vipaschitaha, right? So yatataha, who labors for perfection. So yatataha, while enduring, it's also karma yogi, right? So one who labors for perfection is carried away by the vehement insistence of the senses. O son of Kunti, right? The turbulent indriyas will easily snatch away forcibly the mana to its direction, right? So this is the message that we get. I think very nice. He's building now, right? Every sloka is kind of one leading to the other. Very nice narrative being formed here. Let's see what the next sloka says. We have more to come in the next sloka, 61. That's why, okay, now he answers. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. Again, it's all to do with Sita Prajna, right? Giving more examples as to how one can. So, what are the kaya, vacha, manasa actions of a Sita Prajna? The two parts of the question, right? In sloka number 54, define a Sita Prajna Sitadhi, O Krishna, but also tell me what does a Sita Prajna do, in terms of his actions, movements, in terms of his speech, in terms of his thoughts. No, what is he? Now, I think more answer is coming now. He says, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yatsiyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. What does the padacheda give us? Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita yukta asita. So visarga lopa. Yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasya hi vashehi yasya vashehi yasya hi yasya 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 indriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. So vashehi yasya indriyani yasyendriyani. Sorry. Vashehi yasya indriyani yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. Right? What does that give us in terms of a prose order when we put these words into a proper order? The Anvaya reads like this. Sarvani tani sanyamya yuktaha matparaha asitahi yasya indriyani vashe tasya prajna pratisthita. Now, who's a Sita Prajna, right? Very easier method to you, Krishna. Krishna is giving Arjuna, right? What does it mean? We click on the dictionary link. Sarvani tani, all of these, tani is a pronoun, those, but those are in bracket senses, because that is what being referred to. Pramathini indriyani, right? In the previous shloka. So tani, those pramathini indriyani, those turbulent senses, all of those turbulent senses. Sanyamya, samyak yamya. Yama is controlled, right? Nicely brought under control, right? Samyak yamya, sanyama. Sanyamya, having brought them under control. Yukta, established, engaged, properly yukta. Okay, well established, firm in yoga. Right? Sarvani tani sanyamya, get them all properly controlled and engage matparaha towards me. Matparaha towards me. Right? He is a Bhagavan, right? Asita and stay. He indeed for yasya indriyani vashe, whose sense organs are vashe, is caged or captivated or controlled, mastered, vashe. Tasya prajna pratisthita. His prajna is well established, firmly established. Right? Now he is giving a hint. The easier way for you to follow is surrender to me. All of those things, offer them to me. Right? To the Lord, to the God, to the Bhagavan. Okay. In that fashion, when you control your senses, whatever happens in our sense organs is not ours. It's Krishna Arpanamastu, right? When you do that, it's an easier way to control. Like, see, it's not easy to do fasting, but a lot of us do fasting brilliantly for 9 days during Navaratri, brilliantly during the Shivaratri, brilliantly during the Ekadashi for Vishnu, for Shiva, for Devi. When we do it for these different Bhagavad Rupas, it becomes much easier. The Sankalpa is automatic and the effort becomes very smooth, right? So it's out of experience also we can say that it happens. But many a times it's also the fact that, when we want to do things for ourselves, we kind of falter. When you do it for others, the resolve might get a little stronger. I mean, that could be another common sense reasoning why. But what Krishna is telling is, offer all of these towards me. Grab them all, tie them all, control them, offer them to me. And in that fashion, if you control your senses, you are a Sita Prajna, right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Sri Aurobindo interpretation, when we click back on the shloka link and scroll down, it says, having brought all the senses under control, he must sit firmly in yoga, wholly given up to me. For whose senses are mastered, of him the intelligence is firmly established. Okay, slightly different flavor, but it means the same in the long run. Let's see. Right? Let's move on to the next shloka, because all of these are easier said than done. I think the next couple of shlokas are very important. Let's look at them. Right? Shloka number 63, we move on to. It says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsah Sangashteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Right? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsah Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Right? That's how the shloka is. When we break the words, we see the padacheda, right? Dhyayataha Vishayan. Dhyayato Vishayan. There's a sandhi. Dhyayataha Vishayan Pumsaha Sangaha Teshu Sangasteshu. There's another sandhi. Sangaha Teshu Upajayate Teshu Upajayate Teshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodhaha Abhijayate. Right? Jayate, Jayate, Sanjayate, Upajayate, Abhijayate. So there are different types of birth. Jayate is Janana, right? Janma. Let's see what the Anvaya sounds like, the prose order. Vishayan Dhyayataha Pumsaha Teshu Sangaha Upajayate Sangat Kamaha Sanjayate Kamat Krodhaha Abhijayate. Right? There's a chain reaction happening. We'll see what it means when we click on the dictionary. Right? When we click on the dictionary, again he's addressing Arjuna, right? Hey Kaunteya. Vishayan Dhyayataha Pumsaha. The Pumsaha, the person who is Vishayan Dhyayataha, who is contemplating on the Vishaya, on the senses, on the sense experiences, right? On all the attractions of this life. Right? Vishayan Dhyayataha Pumsaha, a person who is constantly contemplating on the experience, on the objects of experience. Teshu Sangaha Upajayate. Teshu, in them, Sangaha, attachment, Upajayate is formed. He forms an attachment in those. Sangat Kamaha Sanjayate. From Sanga, from attachment, Kamaha, desire, Sanjayate, arises. Kamat Krodha Abhijayate. From Kama, from desire, Krodha, anger, Abhijayate. Now, comes forth, right? And again, when we say Kamat Krodha, it's unfulfilled Kamat Krodha. Subtle. When Kama goes unfulfilled, that's where the Krodha comes. We have to slightly understand. So, basically now he's explaining logically, right? It's not easy to even surrender to the previous shloka. He says, stay resolute in my path, control the senses, offer them all to me, and then stay resolute in my path. But that is also not easy, because the more you think about the objects, that is where our thought should be directed towards Ramanama, Krishnanama, because the more we contemplate on the Vishaya, on objects of experience, we start developing attachment on them. And from attachment comes desire to possess them. And from unfulfilled desires, we get angry, right? That's the logical steps. Let's see what I think the complete part of this will come in the next shloka. We'll see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Come click back on the shloka link and look at the Aurobindo interpretation and scroll down. In him whose mind dwells on the objects of sense, or sense and experience, I keep them together, right? Sense and experience. With absorbing interest, attachment to them is formed. From attachment arises desire. From desire, anger comes forth, right? A simple one. You click on the next, we move on to the next shloka, shloka number 63. Okay, it says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashyati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha, buddhi nashat pranashyati. What does the Padacheda give us? Krodhat bhavati, krodhat bhavati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha, buddhi nashat pranashyati. What does it mean when we put it into a prose order, a proper sentence? The Anvaya reads like this. Krodhat sammoha bhavati. So in the previous shloka we stopped at krodha, right? Kamat krodho vijayate. Krodha comes forth from kama. Right? Kamat krodha abhijayate. Now here krodhat sammoha bhavati. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha, in bracket we can say bhavati. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha, again in bracket bhavati. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha bhavati. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. What does it mean when we click back on the dictionary link on the top? When we do that, we get to see. Krodhat sammoha bhavati. From anger, bewilderment happens, takes place. Bhavati. Right? You get bewildered. Sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha bhavati. From sammoha, from bewilderment, loss of memory takes place. Smriti bhramshat, from the loss of memory, buddhi nasha bhavati. Destruction of intelligence takes place. Buddhi nasha, from the loss of intelligence, from the destruction of intelligence, pranashyati. You will be completely ruined. Nasha. Prakarshana nasha. That's a pranash. So pranashyati is like, especially very nicely nashyati. You will be destroyed, perishes, ruined completely. So let's look at this, right? We'll see what Aurobindo interpretation is, and then maybe spend some time. Maybe this could be the last shloka for the day, or if we are lucky, we can look at one more shloka. Let's see the Aurobindo interpretation. Anger leads to bewilderment. From bewilderment comes loss of memory, and by that the intelligence is destroyed, and from destruction of intelligence, one perishes, one completely is ruined. Now, see, there are a couple of things about this shloka. One is that, you offer everything to me. Like shloka number 60, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha. See, that shloka is the first instance where bhakti is introduced in Bhagavad-Gita by Krishna. Right? That's a very important shloka. Shloka number 60 is where bhakti is introduced. And bhakti is introduced because that's the easiest way to control the senses. Offer everything to me. Right? When we do Ramanama Japa, Hare Rama Hare Krishna Japa, there are multiple advantages of the Hare Rama Hare Krishna chanting. One is that all the disturbances are kept at the bay, are kind of we create an insulation around us, and our thoughts are solely focused on Rama 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 Rama. Because the more we keep the receptors open, chances are lot of nonsense will come in our way. So the best way to keep that insulation is keep chanting Rama Nama, right? So this is the bhakti being introduced in shloka number 60. And that he explains why. Because if you don't do that, the more you keep your thoughts open, the more you contemplate on various attractions. Like Vishaya Prabhala, the second shloka of the Purushottama Yoga, the 15th chapter says there is a lot of attractive things in this life. Like there are many, many attractive things. And the more you contemplate on these attractive things, the sense experiences, you will develop attachment over them, sangha. And from sangha comes kama, the desire. From kama comes krodha, when they go unfulfilled. And from krodha, you will become sammoha. Okay, sammoha, sammoha, bewildered. From bewilderment comes the smriti bhramsha. Smriti is memory, right? Personally speaking, smriti is memory. But expand the scope to societal. Societal memory is smriti. All our dharma shastras are called smriti, right? Because it's a societal memory. It's what the society remembers as the good practices, what we are supposed to do, what is right, what is not. It's a memory of the society, of the country, of the world. So that's where we see Manu Smriti. Like it's not memory of Manu, it's the memory of the society. Parashara Smriti. Like the Dharma Shastras are called Smriti. So when we see Smriti Bhramsha, it can be understood also as the loss of understanding of Dharma. Because Dharma is Smriti. Like all the Smriti Shastras are basically Dharma Shastras. Right? So Smriti Bhramsha is basically loss of memory, yes, literally speaking. But on another level, it's also Dharma Sammuda, Dharma Nashta, complete loss of understanding of Dharma. And by that, Smriti Bhramsha, intelligence, Buddhi Nasha. Like when we don't follow Dharma, the intelligence also goes for a toss. Right? That can be another interpretation. And Buddhi Nasha Pranashyati. You are completely ruined. Now, logically, yes, this is a narrative coming from Krishna, but if you look at it very closely, right, in a very, very subtle way, Krishna is showing the mirror to Arjuna. This is exactly what happened in Arjuna's case, right? When we look at shloka number, 14, 15, 16, 17 of the first chapter, Arjuna goes with a lot of confidence, pravritte, shastra sampate, dhanurudyamya pandava, and then tells Krishna, Senayor Bhayor Madhye, Ratam Stapaya. What does he do? Asking Krishna to stop, the chariot in the middle of the two sides. Go in the front, I want to see. Then he says, Yavadeta Nirikshe Aham. Iksha. There is a shabda called Iksha. Aveksha, Niriksha, Samiksha, Mahikshi. There are many times when you look at that section of the Bhagavad-Gita, you will see Iksha word. Ikshana is sight. Sight is basically getting swayed away, attraction, right? At the sight, you only stare at things that are attractive. Okay, you only gorge at things that are attractive, right? So the sight, ikshana, is a very important term there, right? In the first chapter, you see repeatedly that ikshana, yavadekta nirikshyeham, yotsyamana navekshyeham. I want to see who are the people. That ikshana, contemplation, landed him in attachment. Soon, the first instance of his Vishada didn't happen overnight, right? It was a gradual display of the Vishada. His Vishada started with Drishtvaemam Swajanam Krishna, attachment, all the Maharata, Parameshwasa, Samitinjaya, Vikrantaha, different adjectives used to describe the warriors. Arjuna ends up calling them, Mama Swajanam, Drishtva Imam Swajanam, like, Acharyaha, Pitaraha, Putraha, that attachment starts coming. And from attachment, desire comes. Oh, I want to have this kingdom with them. Okay, without whom, I don't know for whose sake we are desiring this kingdom. Okay, these people have come in line. Okay, that desire is coming. I want to have the kingdom along with these people. Right? I don't want to have the kingdom without this. So now desire is coming. And he knows that, but for whose sake we have come to the war, come for the kingdom, they only have come in the front. These people have come in the line. So that attachment is now getting into anger. Anger is expressed, he uses the word like atatainaha, hatvaita natatainaha, lobho pahata chetasa, Dhartarashtrasya durbuddhe, you see many of the expressions coming from Arjuna, that anger is also subtle and it's evident there. And Atatayanaha is perhaps one of the biggest galis of those days, right? This long definition of Atatayanaha, we have also seen that. So when he uses such expressions, that Krodha, Krodhat bhavati sammoha. That sammoha, he also admits to that, right? Dharma sammoha chetaha. But sammoha comes in the fact that, he, at one point in the 46th shloka, that line that comes from Arjuna, right? Yadyapyete, yadi mama pratikaram, when this disarmed state of mind, if somebody comes and kills me, I think that is great for me. How can a Kshatriya think that the enemy coming and killing him is great? He is completely bewildered. And in that bewildered state of mind, he has lost his smriti bhramsha. And he admits to that, dharma sammoda cheta. In sloka number 5 or so, in the second chapter, he says, I have lost my dharma sense of dharma, right? Dharma sammoda cheta. You know, and from that, intelligence is lost. Okay, I don't know what is going to help me take away. I don't know whether it's good for me to kill them or win over them, or it's good for them to win over me. That intelligence, that faculty to discriminate what is right and what is wrong is completely gone. Yachhoka muchoshanam indriyanam. I don't know what can take away this completely dried up senses away from its current state. Completely lost sense. And with that lost sense of intelligence, he completely is ruined. He finally, that guy is called, Arjuna is called Vishidantam, the crybaby by Sanjaya. He goes down saying, Nayotsye, and he goes silent and sits on the Ratha. So if you look at these 8 conditions given by Krishna in these 2 shlokas, shloka number 62 and 63, it is primarily without telling Arjuna anything, right? So Krishna, such a nice counseling happening, he comes directly to what Arjuna did and cancels that out only in the 18th chapter. Until the 18th chapter, he does not talk about what exactly Arjuna did, but he is living these very subtle things, right? Very, very subtly he is answering. This is basically showing the mirror back to Arjuna completely. And also there is another thing, right? Even surrendering to the God is quite easier said than done. Many of us, we go to the temple, right? We go to the temple and we think we are surrendering to the God. By going to the temple, we think we are surrendering to the God. We tell, oh, Apad Bandhava, you are the one who controls everyone from all their apats, all their dangers. Sarvajna, you know everything. Oh, Jagadeka Karana, Jagadvyapta. We call all adjectives to the Lord, okay, to the Bhagavan. When we go to the temple, when we go down, we think he is everything. We say that in our mouth. But then we tell him, but you don't know my problem. Listen to my problem. You know everything. From you, everything has come. But listen to me. I need promotion. Help me with my promotion. Okay, help my daughter get rank. Okay, help my wife get peace of. Why do I need? Right? I mean, this is not a joke, right? I have seen this in a temple. The Ganapati temple in Bangalore. A lady would come, and she has 15 minutes of prayer and 15 minutes of wish list. Right? Do this to my daughter, do this to my son, do this to my in-law, the daughter-in-law, do this to my husband. She has that 15 minutes of prayer and 15 minutes of wish list. Now, right, our thoughts are constantly on the attractions of this life. Now, that's the same. See, this is where Arjuna is a brilliant example, right? He's the best classmate for us to study this Gita as a subject. This guy also, on one side, he says, Shishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam. I surrender unto you. You are my everything. I am your Shishya, help me. But when the same Krishna tells, Kshudram Hridaya Daurbalyam Tyaktva Uttishta Parantapa, get up and fight, his reaction is, how can I? And he says, how can I? If you surrender to Krishna, if you have the surrendering, swabhava, feeling towards Krishna, surrender completely, but no. So this is a very beautiful thing. So all of these things what Krishna is telling, right? Inherently, we have to understand one thing. All of these things are easier said than done. It takes a lot of continuous effort. We think we are doing Krishna Seva, Bhagavad Seva. And we think we want to look at, let's spread the word of Bhagavad-Gita because some people have asked for it. And then constantly look at, okay, how many new followers I got, right? How many people came to the room? Like some of us, even for me, from that time I have been constantly looking at how many people in the room. 21 here now. This clubhouse is also not helping us. So this Vishaya, right, they're very, very attractive. There are many, many attractive. See, this thing about numbers in clubhouse didn't even exist in my life 6 months ago, 8 months ago. About 2-3 months ago is when they started introducing these stats on the screen. Before that, we had no clue also. They introduced this. Now our eyes are constantly glued onto that metric. How many people came? How many more people came? What do we achieve out of it? Nothing. But we constantly get swayed and get attracted to such things. How many new followers I got after this talk of mine, okay, of the Gita. Okay, because Vyapar, so our Vyapara Swabhava, and then if I don't get it, I click. Which other room is happening? Oh, they are issuing these, they are discussing this political thing. Was Imam of Peace, I believe. Why do people go to such rooms? Don't people have any better sense to do? I get angry. Oh, these useless people of my nation. Oh, the so-called dharmikas. Then I start virtue signaling. See, these things are very, very natural, and that is where when we say surrender, Krishna is telling repeatedly, the senses get attracted. They are very, very turbulent. Pramathini indriyani. Manaha prasadam haranti. They forcibly snatch the mind away. Therefore, you please gather them all, surrender to me, be yukta in my place towards me. Because the more you contemplate on the objects, attachment comes. With attachment, desire comes. From desire, the krodha comes. From krodha, your bewilderment happens. From bewilderment, you lose your sense of memory, sense of dharma. Like smriti is both sense of memory and sense of duty. You lose both. And with that, with lost sense of beauty, you have lost your intelligence. Because if I want, it's quite common, right? If you don't know what my duty is, then my buddhi is not in place. And with my buddhi lost, I am lost, I am ruined. So that's what comes in these two shlokas. I think let's stop here. Let's see if there are any questions, any thoughts. We will continue from shloka number 64 in the next